I'm going to start recording right now. If any of your colleagues didn't have a chance to come online right now, they can find it on YouTube later on. It'll probably be posted up there on Monday, I imagine. Okay, so first of all, as I always say, you are all muted. Your microphones are muted. That's the way GoToWebinar does things by default. So if you need to ask me something or tell me something, I believe there's a chat box and there's also a question box. Maybe they're one and the same thing. But anyway, there is some way that you could type a question to me. So if you have a question, feel free to type away, and hopefully I'll see it pop up on my screen and answer it. So this is the first of these training webinars of 2015, New Year. So Happy New Year, everyone. And today's topic is going to be scheduling and alerts. This actually, it's going to be a pretty short and sweet little presentation here, just to give you an idea of what's available in terms of scheduling dashboards and reports, and doing other kinds of conditional scheduling, where basically a dashboard will only be mailed if some condition is met. Right, so those are the few basic things, and just some general use cases that you might come across are something like this: send me a PDF of my dashboard each morning. That's the the most basic kind of scheduling that you could imagine. You just want some recurring event to take place where the dashboard gets generated and emailed. Very simple. We'll take a look at a couple ways to do that. And then a little bit more complex, here's another use case. Let me know if the inventory of a certain product falls below a certain level. Right, so that's kind of a conditional alert. Right, I don't want to get the dashboard emailed to me every single day. I only want to get it if some condition is met. And then lastly, we'll look at something a little bit more sophisticated. Something like email the salesperson who had the lowest sales for the past 30 days. So imagine that you've got a dashboard, and that dashboard lists the sales for the different salespeople, and you want to send an email out to whoever has the lowest sales, right? And basically tell them, hey, let's start pulling your own weight and stuff like that. Okay, well, let's take a look at these in turn. So the most basic case of just scheduling a dashboard. Let's take a look. I have my user portal up and running over here. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see my user portal. And the most basic case is just this. Let's say you have a dashboard open. Could be under the dashboard tab or under the report tab. Here's a dashboard. I'll just open this one up. Oh, and there's a question. Hold on a moment. You don't see my screens. Okay, is anybody else having a problem seeing my screen? Okay. All right. Okay, everybody is having a problem seeing my screen. Well, that's great. Okay. GoToMeeting says I'm showing my screen, so I'm going to turn it off, and now I'm going to turn it back on. And let me know. Okay, now it's back. Okay, well, okay. Okay, very strange. Okay, I guess that's the old unplug it and replug it trick. Okay, so anyway, so this is the dashboard. I just opened this up in the user portal. And what I want to do is, let's say I want to schedule this to be emailed to me or to somebody else on some recurring basis. Let me just see if anybody else had any questions. Okay, I think everyone's okay. So the easiest way to do that is in the toolbar. There's actually a schedule button. So you press that schedule button, and you get a little nice interface that will guide you through scheduling the dashboard. So you can choose to create a new bookmark to schedule, or you can use the current bookmark. Right? So bookmarks are something we talked about, I believe, in a previous webinar. But bookmarks are up here, right? So you can change the state of a dashboard and make various selections on a dashboard, and then you can bookmark those selections. That's basically a way of saving the selections that you've made. So that's the concept of a bookmark, and you could do a save as new bookmark and give it a name and so on. Okay, so I think we looked at that previously, but anyway, in case we didn't, that is the concept of a bookmark. It's a way to save a particular configuration of the dashboard. Here's another question. Let me just see. It looked like somebody had a question, and yet I don't see anything popping up. Bear with me a moment. Let me see if I'm looking in the wrong place. Why can't I see? I keep seeing a hand popping up on my screen, which means that somebody's trying to ask me something. Okay, try one more time. Whoever is trying to type, can you try typing one more time? Okay, now I don't see anything. So, okay, so I'm hoping everybody, there's nobody there frantically trying to tell me something. Okay, so let's take a look again, going back over here to the schedule button, right? So you can create a new bookmark or use current bookmark, press next, and then you get a very simple interface that allows you to set up a schedule. And the first thing you select is the format that you want to mail the dashboard in, right? So it can either be Excel, PowerPoint, or PDF. And then you specify the emails. If you have security turned on and you have users defined in the system, you'll see a list of available users here, right? So that's an easy way to select emails, or you can scroll down the list, find the user that you want to send the email to, and select it and add over there. Of course, the emails need to be defined by the administrator, right? There's no way that this can guess what people's emails are if they're not already specified, right? But that's a nice way to select users that exist in the system, users of the system. But you can also email a dashboard to somebody who's not in the system, right? So if I just wanted to email this to myself, I could just enter my email. And currently, I'm not a user in the system. There is no user with that email, but I can nevertheless do that and just enter an email address. And then the next thing that I need to do is specify when this task is going to run. In other words, when is this dashboard going to be generated? And so I can select daily, weekly, or monthly, and depending on the selection I make, I'm going to see different controls here. So if I select weekly, then I can choose a time and a set of days when I want that to be generated. If I choose monthly, then I can choose the day of the month, or the the first Sunday, first Tuesday, that kind of thing. And if I select daily, then basically I just enter a time, and I can select whether that should execute every day or on weekdays. And so that's the basic setup, and that's it. So I'm creating right now a scheduled task for this dashboard that will email this dashboard every morning at 1:30 a.m. It'll email it to my email. Right? So that's pretty simple. Press finish. Okay, and now that's scheduled. Now, if you want to see that schedule, if you want to modify it at a later time, then what you can do is you could go to the Schedule tab. Oh, there's a question. Yeah, so the question is, does an email server need to be set up in Enterprise Manager? Absolutely. Yeah, you need to, in Enterprise Manager, you need to set up email, right? So, and for that reason, actually, I can't actually show you any emails being sent because I don't have an email server set up right now. But yes, the answer is you do need to set that up in Enterprise Manager. Okay, so what I was going to say is that after you do that quick and easy scheduling, if you want to modify it or see it in a list of other schedule tasks, you go to the Schedule tab, okay, and you'll see that now there's a single task listed there. It's Sales Explorer is the name of that dashboard that was assigned by default. Okay, and what you can do over here is you can edit that task. There's an edit button. You can delete that task. If you want to run it on demand, there's a Run Now button. You press that, and it'll just run the task right now, regardless of what the schedule was. So even though this is scheduled to run at 1:30 a.m., if I press the Run Now button, then it'll run now immediately. And you can also stop it if it's running. Okay, so some options here. If you press the Edit button, then you'll get, it doesn't take you back to that same interface, but rather you get a more complete interface with many of the same features, but slightly more flexible. And so again, over here you can select if you want to change the schedule, daily, weekly, monthly. There's also a chained option, which basically allows you, if you have multiple tasks defined, you can have a task run only if a previous task is successful. So if you can imagine a situation where you have maybe multiple dashboards that are in some way contingent on each other, maybe a summary dashboard and then a detail dashboard, and you're setting up schedules for those, right? What you could do is you could have set it up the detail dashboard to run only if the summary dashboard successfully is generated, something like that. So again, there's some further options that you have here. And then under action, right, there are a few additional things you can see that there are some more specifications if you want to make more specific adjustments to this schedule task. You can come in here, and here as you select the view sheet, you can see that it's pre-selected because we already set up this task. And there's the bookmark. If there were other bookmarks, you could change the bookmark. The main thing that you would do here, of course, is deliver to emails. There is also a notification of task status, but that's a less useful option. So in the deliver to emails, you do have a few other choices. Again, you can select the format. Here you can specify the subject line, right? So if you're not happy with the default subject line that it uses, then you can change it over here. Again, you can change emails if you need to. And there's a few other options such as bundled as zip. You can you can create a secure, password secured zip file if you wish to, and so on. Okay? And you can set the message that's the contents of the email message over here. So when you come over here, you do have a few other features that you don't have when you simply press the button in the toolbar of the dashboard. This is the more complete way to do it. So, so the moral of the story is that the easy way to schedule a dashboard is to open the dashboard. Right. So again, just to repeat, you open the dashboard and you go to the schedule button, and that's the quick and easy way to schedule a task. Now, if you know in advance that you want, there's a question. Can you have multiple recipients for one email? Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can select. Right. So if you want to email to 10 people, yeah, you just put like a comma separated list of the different emails, and it'll go out to all the emails that you specify. Okay, so so like I was saying, the easiest way to do this is just from that button in the toolbar. If you know that you need to do some set some additional properties, for example, setting the message of the email or setting a bundle as zip option, then you don't actually need to use this button. You could jump directly to the schedule tab, right? Jump directly over here, and then you can create a new task from here as well. So if you know that you're going to need those additional features, then you might as well just come here to the schedule tab, press new task, and then that creates this interface again that you can define a new task. So I'll maybe call this Sales Explore 2. And again, we've seen this now before. You can set the schedule on which it runs, right? And then select the action. So let's say I wanted to run that. Interestingly, I don't see. Oh, because I have to select View Sheet, right? And then find Sales Explorer, and again, I can choose a bookmark, right? And select Deliver to Emails, and then I can set this up however I want to set it up, right? So those are the two ways to do basic scheduling of dashboards. Again, from the Schedule tab is the more complete way, but the easier way is just from the Schedule button of the dashboard itself. Okay, so that addresses that first question. How do I send a PDF of my dashboard each morning? You could do it either of those ways, from the button on the toolbar or from the Schedule tab. Okay, now the next consideration here. I want to find out if inventory of a product falls below a certain level. Right, so now this is a little bit more involved. I'm not saying that I just want to fire off this dashboard to certain emails, willy-nilly every day. I only want to do that if something happens in the data. So let's take a look at an illustration of that. So I'm going to very quickly whip up a dashboard here. I'm opening Visual Composer, and I'm going to create a new dashboard. If anybody has questions about how to create a dashboard, look back at some of the, there's a question. The subject line had the time the email was sent. How is that added? Okay, so yeah, I believe you can actually insert parameters. Let me take a look back at that interface. 1 second. Okay, so pause what I was saying and let's go back over here. Okay. So what you can do, deliver to emails. Yeah, there's actually there's no help text on this screen, but in the subject line, if you take a look at the documentation, you can actually insert. There are special characters like a 0 in curly braces that you can use to insert the day and time and the name of the view sheet that's being generated and so on. Actually. Yeah, you see the little tooltip there says see documentation for date/time tags. So that's how you would do it. Because we have limited time, I'm not actually going to look at the documentation with you right now, but the documentation is all available online. I can, if you want to take a look at the documentation here. I'm just going to copy this link into the chat box in case anybody wants to look at it at their leisure. 1 moment. Okay, so there's the link to the documentation, and you could just click on any of these links here, and then take a look for schedule email, and it'll give you information about the tags that you can insert. Okay, let's get back to over here. Okay, so I was going to whip up a very simple dashboard. So I'll add a chart, and this chart is going to display something about the inventory. Okay, so let's see. So here's, oh, I don't have, sorry, I used a wrong data source. Let me switch the data source. This one doesn't have an inventory, so let me switch it to the data model. Okay, so I switched the data source, and let me go ahead and find the product and here, number in stock, right? So I'll put that on the y-axis, and on the x-axis, let's put, let's say, product name. Okay, so now I've got basically the number in stock. Let me just make one slight adjustment here, make sure that this is giving me the right values. Okay, so this is the number in stock for the different products that we have in our database. And you can see that some of them, like 17-inch LCD, actually have nothing in stock right now, 0. Other ones have quite a few units in stock. So this is a very simple dashboard, and I'll just call this dashboard inventory dashboard. Okay, inventory dashboard. Now, what I want to do here is I want to mail this dashboard out to different people only if a certain condition is met. Let's say only if one of the products has fewer than 10 units remaining in stock. Right? So when we get into that situation that one of the products has fewer than 10 units remaining in stock, then bang, I want to shoot off this dashboard on some schedule. Right? So there's an easy way to do that. And you begin by assigning a highlight. A highlight is basically conditional formatting. That's where you style a chart or a table based on the data. And so that's what I'm going to do here. First of all, I'm going to set up a highlight with the condition that I want. So I'm going to right-click on the chart, select highlight, and I'm going to add a highlight. This highlight will be called less than 20, or let's say less than 15. Okay, less than 15, and I'll just make the highlight red. And then the condition, I press the edit button, and I can set the condition that the number in stock is less than 15. Okay, so I'm just setting a very simple kind of highlight condition. I think we've done this in previous webinars as well, setting up a highlight condition. Okay, and that's it. Right, so there's the highlight, and you could see that the elements, the products that have fewer than 15 units in stock are highlighted in red. Of course, the 17-inch LCD would be highlighted as well if you could actually see it. Okay, and that's pretty much all I need to do in order to generate that alert based on the inventory, based on the number in stock. So what I'm going to do now is save this. Right now, I haven't scheduled it yet, but what I'm going to do is go back to the portal. Right, so now this, that dashboard should be available close this. All right, so if I take a look over here, see if I can find that dashboard. Where is it? Inventory dashboard. Okay, so there it is. There's the dashboard. And since this dashboard has a highlight defined, I can leverage that highlight to send this dashboard on a particular schedule only if that highlight is met. So how do I do that? What I do is I go to the Schedule tab, right, and I create a new task, right, just like we looked at before. And now I'm going to set whatever condition I want, the time condition, when it's going to execute, right, so I can make it monthly, weekly, daily, whatever I want. Then I go to the Action tab, and under the Action tab, I select View Sheet. A view sheet is a dashboard, right? And then select the dashboard, which in this case is the Inventory dashboard. That's the one I just created. And of course, you could choose a bookmark and whatnot. But what I want to draw your attention to is this option down here, which is called Execute Action Only under Selected Highlight Conditions, right? So what I'm going to do is select that. And now you can see that there's going to be a list here, and this list is going to include any elements that have a highlight defined on them. Right? So right now I'm seeing that there is a component called Chart1. That's the name of that chart. And it has a highlight called less than 15, and the rightmost column here gives you what the actual highlight condition is. Right? It's a little hard to see because the tooltip keeps popping up to cover it, but right, so that tells me the number in stock is less than 15. Right, and so this is all I need to do. I just select the highlight condition that I want to be tested when the schedule task runs, and that's it, and I save that. And then what's going to happen is when this schedule task runs according to whatever condition is set here, you know, daily, weekly, monthly, whatever it is, whenever that runs, it's going to look at this highlight condition. Right, so if I turn that on, if I select that, it's going to look at this highlight condition, see if that highlight condition has actually been satisfied. In other words, is there a product that has fewer than 15 items in stock, right? And if the condition is met, then it proceeds with the scheduled task, which would generally include, obviously, sending emails to various people, including the dashboard and so on. Right, so that's right, so that's the basic procedure. Now, if the highlight condition is not met when the task runs, right? So if it looks at this dashboard and sees, oh, there are no products that have fewer than 15 items in stock, then it simply stops at that point. It does not continue running the task, and it does not send any emails. Right? So that's a way to create easily create a conditionalized schedule task, which is basically the concept of an alert. Okay, there's a question. Okay. The question is, in the example of the 17-inch LCD, if the value of number in stock is null, will the highlight still work? Yeah, the highlight will still work because it's not null. The value there is not null. The value is 0. Right? There are 0 items in stock. So even though visually you can't see that highlight on the screen, but the highlight is applied. Is this feature available in 11.4? Interesting question. I think it might not be. This alert feature, I think, was added in either 11.5 or 12.0. That's my best recollection. Okay, so the question: what if the database value is actually null and not 0? That's a good question. I don't think the highlight would apply if the value is null. So you'd have to handle that a different way, possibly the way that I'm going to show you in the next few minutes. Right? So, I mean, I don't definitively know the answer to that. I just suspect that if the value is null, then it's not going to be able to apply the highlight condition because you don't really know how to operate on a null value. Does it meet the condition or doesn't it meet the condition? There's no correct answer to that. So I suspect that the highlight would not apply in that case. So you'd have to handle that null in a different way. Okay, so let's take a look in the remaining few minutes at something a little bit more sophisticated. Okay, and that's the last point over here. Email the salesperson who had the lowest sales for the past 30 days. Right? Now, this is if you could figure out how to do this as a highlight, right? If you could find a way to create a highlight condition that highlights the salesperson who had the lowest sales for the past 30 days, then of course the easy way to do this would be just the way that I showed you, right? You would set up the highlight and then use that highlight to trigger the scheduled task. But at least when I thought about it earlier, I couldn't think of a way to set this up as a highlight condition. So I'm going to show you an alternate way, and the point of this is not to show you just how to do exactly this thing. I want to show you that there's a more general, more powerful way to set up alerts based on some conditions, and those conditions can be things even outside the data that's contained in the dashboard. For example, maybe you want to send the dashboard only if I don't know, the day is Tuesday, and I don't know, and I can't even think of other. Anyway, think of some bizarre business logic. Whatever it is that you want to look into other components. You want to run this thing only if the value in a certain table meets a certain value, and the day is Tuesday, and your boss is mean to you, and right. So you want to find some strange set of conditions and conditionalize the task based on that. So what I'm showing you is a more general framework that allows you to do that. So let's take a look at it. And to do this, I found a very simple. I created a very simple example. Let's see if I can find that. I called it sales last 30 days. Okay, so this is just a little dashboard that I whipped up to try to illustrate how you can do this. So my idea here is that here's my chart, right? And it lists the sales for the different salespeople in the last 30 days. It's not actually, I think, is it the last 30 days or is it? Yeah, I think it is. The last 30 days, right? So, so that's fine. Now what I want to do is I want to basically send an email to whoever has the lowest sales for the last 30 days. Right, now you can see just visual inspection, that's clearly Annie, right? But the question is, how do I arrange to have this email automatically sent just to Annie, if Annie is the weakest seller? And then, the next time, if tomorrow, as this sliding window goes, right? So if tomorrow it turns out that Robert is the lowest seller for the last 30 days, then I want to send that email to Robert. So the trick here is what I'm going to do is, first of all, I want to get these in order from smallest to largest, right? So that's easy enough, right? I go into the chart editor and I'm just going to sort these guys. I'm going to sort by value ascending. And the reason that I'm doing that is that I then know that I can look at the value of the first group, and that's going to be the weakest seller, right? Because I put these in order from smallest to largest. So the first one here is, whoever it is, that's the smallest one, right? So now what I need to do is I need to find out how can I find out who this person is, right? And I can actually do that with a little bit of script. Let me illustrate. Right, so let's say I've got this text element down here, right, and I want this text element to say something, something mean to Annie. If she's the weakest seller, something like "you better shape up" or something like that. So obviously, I need to figure out who's in that position. Which group is it that's all the way on the left here, the smallest group? So let's take a look. I'm going to write a little script on this text element. So I'm opening up the properties, the script editor, and I already have a script here. It's just disabled. And basically this script, the key part that I want to draw your attention to is this. Right? This is how you can access the data in the chart. A chart has a data property, so chart1.data accesses the data of the chart. And then what I'm saying is I want to get the value from the salesperson first name field of the very first item in that field. Right, so for the salesperson first name field is this field along the x-axis, and my script is saying, give me back the first of those items. Right, the zeroth item is the first item, so I'm saying, give me back whatever label is attached to this first group. Okay, so this does involve a little bit of script, as you can see. It's not very complex script, but this is a more general framework for doing these things, but it does require a little bit more sophistication on your part in terms of creating something like that. So that's how you can access the name of the person who is the weakest seller. And so if I apply this script, right, then my text element will say something like, "Hey Annie, work a little harder." Right? And if I were to change the chart around, in other words, if I were to put somebody else in this position, so if I go back in the chart editor and just temporarily, if I make it sort by value descending, right, now Sue is in that position, and so this text element says, "Hey Sue, work a little harder." But that doesn't make sense because Sue is obviously working pretty hard. She's got the best sales, so I'm going to switch this back the other way. Okay, but nothing we've done so far is generating any kind of alert, right? The idea is not just that I want to put a little message here. The idea is that I want to email Annie to to let her know that that she's falling behind, right? So how do I make that part work? Well, basically, now that we know that I can find out who the weakest seller is, all I need to do is I need to find a way to conditionally turn on and off the scheduled task, right? So if I schedule this report the way that we've seen previously, I go to the Schedule tab and I schedule this dashboard to run on a schedule, what I'd like to do is I'd like to check who is the who is the weakest seller, and then based on who that is, I want to decide who gets emailed, right? And so you can do that as a script as well, and I've already written that script so that we don't have to take too much time. If I go to the chart script tab here, I'm just going to, the script is very simple, but let me just describe it to you. So basically what I've done here is, first of all, I'm finding out who that weakest seller is, right? This is the same syntax that we saw before for that text element, right? That gives us the name of the weakest seller. Again, I just look into the chart data and I find the label of the first group on the chart. That gives me the weakest seller. And I'm calling that, I'm putting that in a variable called small seller. Right? And then the only other interesting thing about the script, I've got a little if statement, and that statement basically tests who is that smallest seller. Is it Annie, Robert, Eric, or Sue? Right? And the only other trick here is that there's a special function called thisViewSheet.ScheduleAction. And what this function does is it determines whether the scheduled action, if there is one, will execute or not. Right? So right now there's no schedule action because I didn't set up this dashboard with a schedule. But when I do set it up with a schedule, then this is basically going to determine, this function will determine whether that schedule executes or not, and what emails the dashboard gets sent to. All right, so you can use this schedule action function in a variety of ways. One way would be just to decide, is the schedule action on or is it off, right, and just ignore the email parameter. Right, so you can just assign true or false. If schedule action is given true, then that means that when the task executes, then in fact it will go to completion. But if you ever set this viewSheet.ScheduleAction to false, that means that even if it's scheduled, right, even if there's a scheduled task that's running, when it sees schedule action set to false in a script, it will terminate that schedule action. So that's a way in script to control, based on some logic, whether a dashboard will execute or not. Now, in this case, we're not deciding whether it will execute or not. We always want it to execute, but what we're deciding is what emails does the dashboard get sent to. So, in other words, if Annie turns out to be the smallest seller, then I want the email list to be just Annie. Right? If these are made up email addresses, by the way, so I can't actually test these out. These people don't exist. Well, they might exist somewhere in the world, but they don't exist in my system. Right, so if the smallest seller turns out to be Annie, then I only want to send this dashboard to Annie. If it turns out to be Robert, then I only want to send this dashboard to Robert, and so on. So this is the more sophisticated way if you want to implement very complex logic that determines whether a given dashboard will execute on schedule or not. You do it using this this function here, the thisViewSheet.ScheduleAction. Right, that gives you that control that allows you to use some business logic to determine whether or not the schedule task executes, and if it does execute, who gets those emails. Okay? So that basically sums up all of the different approaches that you have for scheduling. Just to reiterate them very quickly, you've got the Right? You've got the button in the toolbar from the simplest level. Right? So you go to Report, you go open up a dashboard. Right? You've got the Schedule button up here in the toolbar. Then you've also got the Schedule tab, so you can do a little bit more there. You can create a new task. Also, from the Schedule tab, if you have a dashboard that has a highlight, then you can conditionalize the task based on that highlight, as we saw. And then finally, if you want to do something even more elaborate and you can't figure out how to do it that way, then the way you do it is by using this function, this viewsheet.scheduleAction, and then you can implement any business logic that you want and use that to turn on and off the schedule task based on your business logic, and or send the dashboard to different users based on that logic. So let me see. I'm going to stop there, and let me take any questions that anybody has on scheduling or alerts. Okay, I'll just wait. I know typing is sometimes tedious, so I'll wait a minute or two. See if anybody's typing. Oh, there's a question. Is there a way to handle a large sales force? Yeah, so it's a little bit outside the scope of this little talk, but yeah. So obviously, this is a kind of a toy example that we're looking at here, because I'm kind of specifying the emails of each possible user independently. This is going to be tedious to impossible if you have 3,000 users. You don't want to write a script like that. But what you can actually do is you can look in, if you've got a data block, for example, in your data worksheet, or or a query that returns a list of users and emails, then you can access that data, and you could write, for example, a for loop kind of thing that loops through all the users or something like that. Like I said, it's outside the scope of what we're talking about here, but yeah, there are ways to handle a case where you have a lot more users. Let's see, there's another question. Will the presentation be on YouTube or on your website? Yeah, it will be on YouTube, and I think there's also a link from our website. Let me see if I can. Could you email an example of that answer? Okay, sure. Yeah, let me think about it some more, and I'll send you an email. Let me just jot that down. That's Jim. Hang on one moment. Okay. Now back to that other question. As far as the YouTube goes, yeah, do I know that link off the top of my head? I probably don't, but I believe that our marketing director sends out an email on Monday to everyone who was registered for the webinar with the link to that video, and all of the other videos are there as well. So if you have a link to one video, you should be able to find all the other videos. So why don't you wait till Monday? If you don't get an email on Monday with a link to the video, then feel free to email me, and I'll try to find out why that didn't get sent out. My email is david.fass@inetsoft.com. Okay, any other questions? Thank you, Dennis. Okay, looks like there's no other questions, so have a nice weekend, everyone, and hopefully see you back here next month for the next exciting episode. All right, take care.